This is YUGO, and it's the worst car ever made from a country that doesn't even exist anymore. Its starting price used to be under $4,000, and last year we built a race engine for it, and as expected, that didn't go very well. But you know how it goes. Unsafe but fun. And thanks to your support on Patreon, I began building a new engine that is currently sitting behind me. Additionally, I have managed to acquire a real military plane turbojet engine, and it's currently in Canada. But I plan to eventually put it not just in a regular YUGO, but in something extra special. A lost prototype of a unique YUGO variant that was never sold to the public. That was believed to not even exist in the first place. And it is the worst truck ever made. And you heard me right. It is a truck. Thing. I bet you didn't expect that, did you? Truth be told, I didn't expect that either. But my objective right now is to get this thing running, which will be extra difficult compared to our previous YUGO, considering this car has been lost in the desert for over 20 years. What makes it even more challenging is that it's made out of a lot of unique parts, some of which are so rare that you can't even find them in any databases, let alone buy on eBay or Amazon. But we'll get back to that. That didn't sound good. My other objectives are to restore Jerry and warranty out my laptop that surprisingly still works after the Canon incident. And yes, despite all the holes in it, I'm still able to display Patreon names. Thank you guys for your support and making this possible. If I understand correctly, the owner before me acquired this truck from a estate sale after the original owner has passed away. They didn't know what they were dealing with, so they just wanted to get rid of it. This truck cost me $1,000, and it came free with a bird's nest, a rat's nest, and pretty much all the wires that were chewed through, presumably by some desert mouse or a rural California resident. Considering it is a unique one-of-a-kind prototype, you would think that it's built better than the regular YUGO. Well, all I gotta say for now is that the entire rear portion of the car managed to fall off while we were towing it, so take it as you will. I didn't want to spoil much about this YUGO in the previous video, and at the time we had no space for another project, so I stored it in a storage unit, prioritizing the main disaster instead. And after the unfortunate events that followed, I decided to take a month off from working on any YUGOs, and as I was about to enjoy the lovely year 2025, the very first call and voicemail I received in the morning goes as follows.
Hello, this is Alyssa calling from... I am calling because last night we ended up having a water pipe burst.
I don't find myself quite superstitious, but I feel like the YUGO might be actually cursed. Because pretty much anything that comes in proximity of YUGO tends to break down or fall apart, just like the country it was made in. So not even a week in of 2025, I was forced to go to the storage unit to assess the water damage. And after a pretty stressful drive, I came to a realization that I made a mistake. I just realized I did not bring the keys to the storage unit, baby. No way. So I had to do another stressful drive back and forth. And upon investigating the storage unit, I did not find any substantial water damage. But I did find something else instead. Or rather, I should say, someone instead. Yeah, so it's alive. That's a black widow. And trust me, you really don't want to get beaten by one. So I left her alone and went back home. Upon coming back months later, I couldn't find the spider. So I began investigating the amount of work I will need to do to get this car running. Oh my god, it's worse than I remember. Let's check out the coolant level. Oh my god, it's all just rust. Yeah, that's bad. Oh, there's a bit left. I think that should be enough. The worst part about this prototype were all the chewed up wires, especially since this car has 10 times more electronics than our main YUGO. Caution, fan may start at any time, even with ignition off. That's not good. Unfortunately, some of the parts don't have any information available to the public, and the ones that do sometimes don't have any repair manuals whatsoever. I spent 2 days applying as many temporary wires as I could, just to see if I can get the power going through the car in the first place. Whatever. Oh god. Oh my god, the seats are hard as rocks. They're like hard like cement. Every single time I dive in here, I have a risk of getting bit by a black widow. So, it's a scary one. I see one plug is unplugged and oh, I think I just found a spare key. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff unplugged. Due to the Black Widow, I didn't want to poke my hands very deep in the car. A lot of spider web. And I just noticed there's just a cable dangling. I came to the realization that the only way for me to continue working on this thing would be to bring it to a garage first. But I couldn't do it alone, so it all led to this.
Hello. I forgot to ask something. Do you have a jar?
A jar?
Yes.
Like a mason jar?
Just any jar.
How big?
Well, the Black Widow is about this size.
Okay.
Just for the insurance purposes.
Sure.
She is pretty aware. Oh, got her.
Not aware enough, apparently.
Yeah, not aware enough. Did she just die?
No way.
You're right, but did I give her a heart attack? Apparently Black Widows play dead, so now I'm not exactly sure if I found multiple Black Widows in this car or if they were just her previous exoskeletons. But either way, we had no choice but to tow the car. Anyways, we managed to load the car on the first try. I mean the second first try. I'm not sure if you could tell, but the car is actually really tiny despite the deceiving proportions. And to give you perspective, it actually weighs less than a Miata. And it is a truck. I wasn't sure if it is a good idea to release the Black Widow considering it came with the YUGO, so I made a little enclosure and named her Betty. I'm not sure how to put this, but I don't think that's a reptile. Now with at least one Black Widow out of the way, I was able to begin working on the YUGO again. And before touching any wires, I figured it would be a good idea to clean it up a little. Oh my god, this is so bad. Well, we gotta start somewhere. The biggest surprise for me was the fact that this car's interior is supposed to be gray and not brown. But as you can imagine, 20 years in the desert would do that. The second biggest surprise was the fact that they actually used household nails in this car. You know what is the most ideal number of nails used in a car? 0. And the third biggest surprise was when I found a piece of interior and thought that it was a dead rat. Oh my god, I thought it was a rat intestine. Okay, is this really as far as it slides? This is the old adjustment you have. Nope, this is as far as it goes. Can I? Oh, okay, so you can do that. Oh my god, there's just... It's a pocket of sand. There's just nothing in there but sand. The cleanup's been going pretty well, but then I noticed that something is wrong. And I'm not just referring to the car itself. There's certainly a lot of haze in here. And I don't like this. And I genuinely cannot tell if it's a dust from this YUGO or it's the laptop. As it turns out, we forgot to put the air filter back in my vacuum after we did a bunch of work on the previous YUGO, and that resulted in the entire garage being covered with sand. Fortunately, I was wearing a mask, but this definitely got in the way of cleaning up the YUGO. So, this is the color it's supposed to be. Oh my god. So I invited my friends over for some help and to build some sandcastles together. And while my friends were mentally preparing themselves, I decided to investigate the electronics. And it was a complete disaster. First of all, the car's drivetrain was primarily based on the rarest YUGO variant, which had the least amount of documentation available. In fact, there was virtually none. Who could have thought that this car would have a fuel injection from a Porsche? But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. The second issue was that since it was an engineering sample, it was basically a mashup of the most random parts imaginable. So we couldn't use our other YUGO as a reference, which brings us to the next problem, all the chewed up wires, and of course wires that lost their identification color over time. Due to these aforementioned issues, you could never confidently tell what wire goes where, if any parts are missing, or if any parts are present where they're not supposed to. Either everything is gonna blow up, or nothing is gonna happen. It's 50-50, and that's my favorite kind of 50-50. I heard a click. I heard something click. It was basically like a puzzle, except somebody tossed a bunch of extra pieces in there and then decided to bite the box. This YUGO featured a lot of unexpected quirks and surprises, some of which were discovered together with my friends. I have a strong feeling this YUGO has an AC. That looks like a compressor to me. Yeah, it is. Only a handful of YUGOs actually had an AC. The majority of them had AC controls, but all it did is just regulate how much air you get from the engine bay versus from outside. So every time unsuspecting buyers would turn on the fans, all they would get is the heat from the engine. A good starting point to figure out why the YUGO is not getting any power is to check the starter, as the battery positive terminal is connected directly to it. Except for some reason, this particular YUGO used an alligator clip in combination with the proper connector. I think I know why they were using the alligator clip. This is actually ridiculous.
You can only... I was gonna say you can only do that so many times.
It has like a spider web in it. That means spider entered from somewhere else in the engine and just got all the way. There's no other opening.
I just don't understand what motivation the spider would have to set up shop in there. What bugs are going there?
At the end of the day, we managed to clean up most of the YUGO. There was still a lot of dirt, but it looked significantly better, and it became more comfortable to work from the inside, as you wouldn't get sand in your mouth anymore. One of the biggest concerns I had about this car was the transmission controller unit, also known as TCU, because it's either one-of-a-kind item or it's the last one remaining in the entire world. I can't risk frying it, and its condition is questionable at best. But after spending months on research and hunting down the TCU, I found one that should be compatible, at least in theory. It took countless amount of hours to figure out, but it turns out the transmission found in this YUGO is based on a specific transmission found in some Renaults. They're not identical, but are virtually the same. So in theory, the TCU made for the original transmission it's based on should hypothetically work with this one. I had to talk to a lot of people, including those who worked at the actual factories, in order to discover any information, as it's not available to the public. While doing the research research, I also found out that they called R5 Renault Le Car here for whatever reason. Instead of giving it a normal name the rest of the world got, they also tried to sell the same car under two different names that happened to be 11 and 9, which led to this unfortunate nickname. Anyways, after spending a couple of weeks, I managed to find a TCU that should be compatible. Let's see what we got. That's a good sign. Unfortunately, the part I received was not the part I was originally looking for, but it did match the picture. It was just listed incorrectly. I just assumed to use a generic picture as it's a very common thing to do, especially when these TCUs look virtually the same. In theory, this TCU should still work, but once again, that's just a theory. I would rather risk this one and try to source another one than trying to resolder each individual wire on the original YUGO TCU and then still risk frying it afterwards, especially when it's believed to be the last one in the world. Now that the interior is mostly cleaned up, I made the electrical part of the car my main priority once again. So one of the things I discovered is that this car never had a ground strap. The car was just powered by hopes and dreams, so I got this one. And a couple of extra just in case. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh no. Oh, there's more. That's great. I need to understand if anything is even connected to the alternator. Yeah, I don't think so. After a few hours of fixing wires, I finally made a breakthrough. Look at this. It knows something is up. It actually knows that there's a low fuel. No lights, no fan, none of these guys. But I got some power going. Getting some of the power through was very encouraging, so I got even more stuff fixed. Well, sort of. So I got the wipers to work. If I turn the key after multiple attempts and... Oh, they don't work anymore. Wait, what? They were working just now, but not anymore. What happened? What actually happened? Why did they just stop? I don't know. Oh, there we go. They work. And they actually don't even sound that bad compared to the other YUGO. Remember how I mentioned that this YUGO had some unique parts, or would have parts that are slightly different from the original? Well, here's an example. I brought a starter from the YUGO that we did get to run in the past. At least I know for the fact that this one works, or at least it should work. There's only one real way to test it out, I suppose. My favorite activity, getting underneath the YUGO. I have a feeling that the new starter is not gonna work, because it's just not gonna fit. So does it actually not fit into... Yeah, it does not. Wonderful. Just wonderful. Just one single bolt is different size for whatever reason. I guess it's gonna be held together with only 2 bolts instead of 3. I just hope that these bolts don't snap off, because if they do, that's gonna be disaster. I had to fix a lot of wires as well as do a lot of soldering from underneath the vehicle, primarily since some of the parts were too risky to remove due to their age, as the plastic and the rubber became way too brittle, to the point where it would just explode if you look at it wrong. So, in a complete theory, although this is a horrible idea and I probably shouldn't do this, the starter might actually work right now. It might. Nada. Nothing. And it clicks, which is very interesting. I decided to organize as many wires as I can to keep better track of them, as well as clean up fuses and relays to minimize the points of failure. I really don't like pulling this. It really feels like it's gonna fall apart just in my hands. Oh my god. It kind of is already falling apart in my hands. But despite my best effort, I could only get the power going to the dashboard as well as the wipers and nothing else. And even then, it would be pretty inconsistent. I wonder if at this point, it is the transmission module that is causing the issues. Troubleshooting electrical problems in old cars is pretty frustrating, but I had no choice but to begin tracing wires one by one.
The back of it looks like it's just disintegrating.
Yeah, you should have seen this YUGO before we did the cleanup. And after 6 consecutive hours, I managed to get a lot of stuff to work. Most notably the headlights, as well as the check transmission and check engine lights. Check transmission, it stays up, oh, it's gone. So I guess the transmission is good. Engine, however? I guess we'll have to figure that one out. And after a few hours of extra work, I managed to get the starter to work.
That was unexpected. Oh my god. It's finally seems to be coming in all together. It's actually happening. It's actually happening.
It would crank, but it wouldn't start. So the first step was to add some fuel. And that's when I discovered that our gas cap was stuck shut. So I had to hammer it out.
Never in my life I've seen a fuel cap this flat.
I added some fuel and tried to start the car for the first time.
It's doing something.
Before testing everything further, I added some transmission fluid just to make sure it doesn't destroy itself, and that's how I discovered the massive leak. It wasn't exactly safe to drive, but it was good enough to see if the engine can start in the first place. The starter would make noise, but the rest of the engine would not start, which could mean a million things and would require testing every component one by one. And a good starting point is to make sure that there is a spark, as well as the fuel to begin with.
Come on in. Yeah, it's unlocked. Yank it. Just yank it. Harder. Oh my god. There we go, you got it.
It's much easier and more entertaining to work on this kind of stuff together, so I invited my friend David so we could troubleshoot the engine as well as fix the transmission leak by replacing the rubber boot, since I got a couple of spare ones after our first YUGO left a puddle at the car show. And it didn't take long until we discovered that the car came with Bluetooth wireless shifting.
It looks even sillier on the video. Oh, nice gasket. It looks like it's just assembled out of a mod.
While my friend was busy with the axle, I began investigating the fuel system. The first step was to figure out if the car is getting fuel in the first place. And the easiest way to do it is with a bucket or a bottle. But you have to add some water, otherwise the fuel will just melt through.
Gets me every time. And... any fuel?
Do it again. Nope.
No fuel?
No fuel.
Okay, well maybe that's why it's not starting.
Out of nowhere, strange things began to happen. For example, the transmission light would now appear, disappear, and then reappear again, but only sometimes.
Waiting for the check transmission light to go away. Oh, it's gone now. Oh, it's up. Wait, hold on. Did you do anything just now? Because it disappeared and then reappeared.
No.
Oddly enough, the check engine light would no longer appear, but it wasn't clear if it was a bad or a good thing.
It doesn't do check engine light.
You fixed the engine.
It doesn't make any sense. I didn't do anything different.
It was pretty unexpected and very confusing, but I wasn't worried too much about it yet as we discovered a different issue. As it turns out, the axle boot that was supposed to be compatible with every single YUGO was not compatible with this one specifically. I was able to find a different boot that was designed for a different car that used the same engine family as the YUGO, and it looked sort of similar, so I placed an order for it alongside of other items that needed to be replaced, like the control arm and the brake related stuff. Speaking of which, the brake situation in this car is pretty unique. First of all, the brake line was cut. If you compare the cut of the wires, it's very clear that it was done by a human and not some sort of desert animal, which really makes you wonder what was the motivation behind it and if there was any malice involved. And this will complicate the repair for us, as the brake calipers found in this car are unique to automatic YUGOs, which are extremely rare and not compatible with anything else. In fact, it's barely documented in the first place due to how obscure they are. But what's interesting about these calipers is that they can actually monitor the condition of your brake pads. I'm not sure how many vehicles of that era actually had something like this, let alone YUGOs. With that being said, my main priority remained to be getting the engine to run, as there's no point in getting the brakes fixed if there's nothing to slow down in the first place. So the first step was to investigate the fuel pump.
Oh my god. It's actually not connected to anything. Or the rest of it just fell in. Oh my god, there's a lot of gunk. What does it consist of? This might be the fuel level indicator, now that I think about it. The way it works is actually really funny. Instead of using like the standard fuel meters that like lift physically, this thing has a spring that extends based on how much fuel there is pushing through this tube. This thing doesn't make much sense, but it's so funny to look at. It's more complicated than whatever they used before. I guess they just wanted to have more technology in this car. This was not a fuel pump. This is.
The actual fuel pump wouldn't work, and during the testing it managed to short circuit my power supply, so I grabbed the fuel pump from the other YUGO and tried to power it independently from the car in order to see if the car could get the fuel in the first place, or if the lines are clogged, or if there are leaks of some sort. And as it turns out, everything was wrong, as in the fuel pump was broken and the rubber lines were both clogged and were leaking due to the dry rot. After doing a bypass of the original tank in the pump, it was time to test out the condition of the fuel hard lines of the car, and as I was setting up the camera, the YUGO curse struck again.
Yeah, this won't do.
And as I was trying to come up with a new setup, I discovered something interesting.
I just found out that this is an inertia switch for the fuel. I don't know if the logo is visible, yeah. It's an inertia switch made by Ford in England. This is insane.
It's basically a physical switch that trips whenever the car detects a collision in order to cut off the electrical connection to the fuel pump to prevent a potential fire. And as it turns out, this particular one was actually tripped, which hypothetically would explain the lack of fuel. But since I already set up the external pump, I decided to test it out.
This is the fuel that was in the system. It's all clogged up. This is all the gunk. Wow.
I kept flushing the fuel system until the fuel itself became somewhat clear. And now that the fuel is looking good, it was time to see if the car is getting spark. And unfortunately it didn't, which exponentially complicates a lot of things. I still had the coil as well as the wires and spark plugs from the YUGO that did end up working in the past, so I decided to try them as well. Unfortunately, it was still not getting any spark, including when I tried to mix and match things, because we were informed that the unique YUGO that we have actually uses its own type of coil that is slightly different from the standard ones, but it was never specified what makes it different, and it looked like just any other coil of that time. The only thing that really stood out to me was the unlabeled ignition module.
So I traced it back to this part, and it looks like there's a bit missing.
That particular ignition module was never documented in any of the YUGO manuals, but I managed to find one that looks virtually the same, and it was used in some of the Swedish cars of that time. I also found this ignition coil that had this bracket together with the ignition module and decided to buy it as well. And since that coil was made over 20 years ago, I decided to buy a brand new one from a different manufacturer, you know, just in case. I also bought a bunch of small electrical stuff, but it'd be too much to list. The whole situation was a massive head scratcher, as it didn't make much sense as why there was no spark. But after talking to a couple of people who built these engines for a living, I was told that 9 out of 10 times it's the crank angle sensor. In summary, all it does is just detect the RPM of the engine using the teeth and the gaps between them. So we had to check if it can read anything in the first place.
Yeah, this is so sketchy. Well, crank that soldier boy.
The resistance was completely fine, but the actual voltage readings were inconclusive. The only sensor that I could find for sale cost $200, but the reality is they're all virtually the same and shouldn't cost more than $30. The key difference between them is usually the plug and the mounting bracket. So we grabbed one that was made for the same engine from a different car and decided to give it a try. Sadly, it did not give us a spark, but it did give us a different kind of surprise. Normally, you really wouldn't want to see fluid of this color come out of your engine.
Doesn't tell me we'll have a blown head gasket.
I don't want this to be the case. And I also don't want a bunch of oil going on my burn, my lovely 2nd degree burn.
You got 2 degrees.
Yeah, I got 3 degrees. That's half my chungus life. Oh my god, it's so nasty. Now it's gonna give us like skewed results. I'm gonna get a different funnel. Oh, I didn't really think that through. Gosh darn it. Okay, should probably salvage something. This funnel is too small for it, gosh darn it. It's like a chalice. This is getting worse and worse by the seconds. It was hard to tell what made the leak get this color. On one hand, the car's been missing for over 20 years, and the insides of the engine could have just rusted out. But it could also be just a simple leak that is mixed together with dirt and sand. And the leak would only occur when we crank the engine, which would explain how it would collect the dirt in the first place. So we collected as much of it as possible and left it overnight so it can settle.
So the oil settled and it kind of checks out. However, we had a bit of a leak over here, so I dipped the paper towel and it's green, you know, just like the coolant. So I suspect that that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, well, great, we don't have a cap anymore.
Today is the day when some of the parts are supposed to arrive, more specifically stuff for the axle as well as the shift linkage. So while waiting for the delivery, I decided to focus on more electronics.
It sounds so sad. At least we know it works. I don't particularly consider myself good with electrical, but whoever did this makes me very angry just looking at this. Oh my god. They actually used painter's tape for some of the bare wires. It's actually insane.
Eventually the parts got delivered, and to our surprise, things didn't go as planned. The shift linkage turned out to be way too long, because the measurements listed were for the middle section and not the whole thing as you would expect it to be. What makes it trickier is that these linkages are designed for motorcycles and not this particular car. Now here's something funny. The size that we actually need is the only size that motorcycles typically skip. It's not impossible to get those linkages, but they're all made by brands that sound like gibberish and take weeks to arrive. And in case you're wondering why I didn't get one that was specifically made for this car, simply put, they do not exist anymore. I'm not even kidding when I say that it's easier and cheaper to buy the whole transmission than this tiny plastic part. The only other option we had for now was to weld the plastic. I know the basics of metal welding, but I've never welded plastic in my life, so I opened the YouTube tutorial while setting up the tool.
Integrity of a crack, just like this one here. Now this
I guess I have to weld twice as much now.
I didn't even look over. I barely pulled it. Anyways, modern problems require modern solutions, as well as a bunch of zip ties.
David, could you please do me a favor? Get in the car and try to shift the car without checking what I did for no particular reason. Slowly shift in the next available gear.
Unfortunately, zip ties didn't work.
Okay, I'm gonna continue working on it.
So I added more. That didn't work either. I would have added more zip ties, but these were my last ones in that size. So the only thing left that we could try that day was to replace the rubber boot as well as the control arm. And to our surprise, neither of the parts turned out to be compatible with our specific YUGO. It was possible to chop off a part of the control arm to make it work, but the same could not be said about the rubber boot, because neither of the two boots that I got could be sandwiched together by this plate. So one of the options was to stack multiple boots together, one to cover the axle and the other one to make it stay in place. Unfortunately, that idea failed completely, so the only realistic option was to figure out what is the actual part number for this boot. And the closest thing that I could find within the United States was the sketchy listing on Amazon, and thanks to your support on Patreon, I was able to take the risk. But the day of work was not a complete waste, as I made a couple of breakthroughs in terms of research, as well as troubleshooting electrical issues with the car, the biggest of which was the hypothetical existence of a diagnostics plug. Modern cars are legally required to have the universal OBD port, which is primarily used for communication and diagnostics of the car's computer, but it wasn't always the case, and in order to troubleshoot a lot of old cars, you need special tools, the majority of which are proprietary, expensive, and sometimes difficult to obtain. There are some possible workarounds, but the situation of this YUGO is extremely unique. The official YUGO documents actually list Porsche fuel injection as part of the features of the car, which would imply that this particular YUGO may use an actual computer from a Porsche, or at least a dumbed down version of it. And here's where it gets interesting. The amount of stuff you can find about it online has always been limited, like the citation on Wikipedia does not even work. I guess you could say that the YUGO curse can break the links as well, leaving us only one way to find out for sure: pull it out of the car yourself.
This is actually the worst. Somebody bought domain yugo.com to do student housing, and the university is ECU. So if I look up YUGO ECU location, all I find YUGO Greenville Campus Towers. Like, this is actually so bad.
All German cars typically have their ECUs underneath the glove box, which also happens to be the only spot I have not checked on this YUGO, and for a good reason. Oh my god. Oh god. As you may have figured, I have found the ECU, as well as a bunch of flaky trouble.
I need a mask.
The existence of the ECU confirmed the existence of the diagnostics plug, but here's the catch. The original publicly accessible YUGO manuals only go up to a certain year, and don't cover anything to do with computers or fuel injection. And as I mentioned before, this particular drivetrain is based on a very obscure late model YUGO, but after spending $30 I was able to find a version of the manual that actually covers the computer part, and it essentially confirmed two things. You do need an actual diagnostics tool from a Porsche that was only provided to a handful of select dealerships in the entire nation, leading to a really high resale price, and the only alternative to that is hot wiring the car and using the check engine light to count how many times it's gonna blink. But in our case, it does not even appear when you turn the key anymore, which as it turns out, it's supposed to do until you actually start the engine. In theory, we only need to fix one light, but this is a YUGO, so it's not that simple. Let me present to you the wiring diagram of a YUGO. Yep, that's right. This is an actual wiring diagram of our YUGO. No surprise I found a Black Widow in this car, cause this is spiderweb. This schematic is not even the most absurd part of it. Take a closer look at the color labels on this diagram. Note how only two of them are matching the actual letters, and the rest are done in alphabetical order. And even then, it's still skipping letters. So you see V and it's actually green and not violet, because violet is Z for no reason whatsoever. To quote my friend Nolan, who is way better at working with PCBs than I am, this is the most insanely designed schematic I have ever seen. It's like it's trying to confuse you generally. And to quote a viewer who responded to me on Instagram, this looks like a Terraria crafting tree. But you know what's truly the biggest highlight of this whole schematic? It does not even have a diagram for the check engine light that I'm looking for in the first place. I was quite optimistic since the light used to work in the past, so I spent a few hours tinkering with wires and eventually got the chamber to work, which I didn't even know this car had.
You hearing that? That's a good sign.
Oddly enough, it only worked with the right door, but not the left one. I couldn't find any mention of chambers in the manuals that I had, so it could either be intentional or some issue with the wiring, or even both. After spending a few hours, I still couldn't get the check engine light to work again, let alone get the engine to start. With some unfortunate events happening in real life, I decided to continue working on the YUGO once more of the electronic parts arrive, since it would make more sense to replace multiple things in one go. And let me tell you something, this is not Amazon logo.
So I was about to open this box with the new coil, and I saw this awesome warning on it. Maybe I should put my mask on. I can actually see the flaking particles. Oh my god, this is actually really bad. It's entirely covered. Oof, some dust. And we already know what that dust is, what it likely is. Not a big fan. Not a big fan. I mean, what else can I say? They don't make them like they used to. Oh my god, I'm gonna feel this in a couple of years.
And as I began installing the new parts, the YUGO curse has struck again.
I think my 8mm ratchet just broke. It doesn't ratchet anymore. It goes in both directions. Everything that touches this thing just falls apart.
I replaced the old coil that turned out to be also covered with a lot of interesting dust, as well as a bunch of other small stuff. But unfortunately, that did not fix the lack of spark. When I began working on this car, I replaced its spark plugs with the ones from the previous YUGO that used to work. But just in case, I decided to replace them again with completely brand new ones. Sadly, that also didn't work. So I began replacing the distributor parts, even though they should have been fine. But you know, just in case. I mean, it looks severely nicer on the inside, that's for sure. Let's give it a try. Nothing clicked this time. I'm just gonna... Odd. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but nothing clicked at all. I tried to bypass the inertia switch just in case, as it could in theory cause errors in the ECU, especially if it thinks that the car got into collision and that there's no point of giving a spark if there's no fuel. And as I was about to test it out, the YUGO curse has struck again. Interesting. Let's see if the other one works. Oh. The YUGO somehow short-circuited my power supply for the second time, except this time it couldn't be fixed with a fuse and was permanent, so I had to get a completely new one. But since it would take a couple of days to arrive, I had to come up with a solution. I can't say that I'm exactly a fan of this, but I don't exactly have a choice. Hey, it works. Very satisfying noise. Nope. To me, it was obvious that there are still a lot of electrical issues, so I spent many days just testing every electrical connection imaginable. But every time I would fix something, something else would stop working, or begin working in a weird way. I just want to point out that this is not very typical for a car to do that. It's like an agony. I sprayed some water from the inside to wet the plastic so it doesn't explode because it's brittle. And it looks like the car just started crying. I wonder if I can recreate that. Yeah, there we go. It looks like it's crying. In all honesty, if my insides looked like this, I would be crying too. Oh boy, this is so bad. All in all, the more I would work on this car, the more I began to suspect that there is some faulty ground connection, because the majority of my experience could be summarized with this clip. I have some exciting news. As a result of my doing... Oh, don't do this to me, like it doesn't work anymore. I began checking every single ground connection in the car, and I would keep finding a lot of unlabeled parts or parts that could not be identified by people on the forums, leaving us with only one solution. Just open them up and figure out yourself. Did they use honey to like glue this stuff? What even is this? The electrical problems would remain to be very unpredictable, but little by little it felt like we were making progress. Now it works, it doesn't scream at me anymore. Although sometimes it felt the opposite. I just realized that I installed the steering wheel upside down. I got really curious about this particular box, because nobody I spoke to could identify it, and it kind of looked like a relay of some sort. The part does not exist. There's just nothing. The only thing I could look up other than the part number was the tiny name that was scratched on the box itself. No way! It's an electrical supply store in Serbia. It's just some random electrical supply store. Due to how relays work, it could potentially explain a lot of issues we were experiencing. I've got a signal on the instrument cluster that I'm using a blinker for the first time. All I did was just check the voltage. Now the hazards do not work unless the high beam is on? What is going on? I can now use both left and right turns without using hazards. Nothing has changed. I just unplugged and replugged it. But here's the issue before, like, you know, somebody says, oh yeah, well, why didn't you try unplug and replug it? I did it like at least 18 times prior, like in the past couple of weeks. So what made this time different? So right turn works, left turn works, hazards. Hazards. I'm hearing a lot of hazard in there.
The relay itself is a hazard.
Yeah, the relay itself is a hazard. On a bright side, we finally managed to fix the rubber boot, as that sketchy listing on Amazon actually turned out to be legit, and was exactly the part we needed. We refilled the transmission fluid and decided to give it a try, and that's when we encountered the new issue, which unfortunately was pretty major.
That's how my knees feel in the morning.
That is also, by the way, another good sound. A sound of it hitting the gearbox that is not letting it like rotate itself. One theory is it's actually not in neutral, even though supposedly it's meant to be, and I checked like the actual lever thing. Other theory is something is up with the starter, so I'm gonna smack it over a mod. Nothing.
next one. Oh boy!
I see what you mean. Yeah, I put it in neutral. Should free spin.
Absolutely nothing is different this time from all other times. At least, I mean, I got the both lights working. It kind of like refuses to do it sometimes. It screams at me in the frog language. But if I turn the others, nothing happens. But if that was it.
Mechanically, everything checked out, and physically there was nothing preventing this car from starting, so more and more suspicions began to fall on the ECU and the TCU of this car. So it was time for me to investigate the computer itself, something I was really hoping I wouldn't have to do. Gotcha. Well, here's our computer. Ah boy, this looks awful. But it's actually way better condition than I expected it to be. So I began investigating the ECU following the official manual that does lay out pretty good steps for troubleshooting stuff, but its main solution to computer problems is actually pretty simple. They want me to use a new ECU? Are you kidding me? Yeah, one of the main solutions is actually to just get a new computer, which unfortunately was not an option, because the only one for sale in the entire nation cost $1,000, and it wasn't even meant for this particular YUGO, just a very similar one. Now the question is it compatible with computers from a Porsche? And the answer is no, with an asterisk, or yesn't if you will. Despite this ECU being oddly skipped in the list of official ECUs, upon opening it up, it is indeed a dumbed down version of a computer used in some Porsches, so the components are interchangeable, but directly swapping the computer would likely not work, which is expected for computers of that time, but still surprising for a YUGO. I only opened up the ECU to confirm the theory about the interchangeable components of a Porsche, but as it turns out, replugging it back in allowed me to crank the car again. It still wouldn't get any spark, but the starter would no longer have the issue. Something is wrong with ECU. Now the question is, which component is actually faulty? Something that leads to ECU, something that goes from ECU, or is it the ECU itself? Previously, I mentioned that it's possible to hotwire the car to get the check engine light blink a couple of times to identify some of the issues. I tried that, but unfortunately the check engine light did not come up in the first place, so it could still be either a light bulb or a deep underlying issue. I asked my European friends who worked for the company that made those ECUs if they can source one from the factory itself, and I was told that those were made in small quantity and are now impossible to find. Another friend overheard our conversation and decided to check the local marketplace, and to everybody's surprise, there was actually one listed for sale that day that was listed in a foreign language by a guy who lived just an hour away from one of my friends. And the best part is that it was actually brand new, or rather completely unused. Can you actually believe that? What are the odds? And I figured it would be a great idea to have a backup ECU, so I asked my friend to get in touch with the guy, and in the meantime I began to troubleshoot every single thing that could lead to the ECU.
This looks super sketchy, and the reason being is that because it is.
I spent literal weeks checking every single wire in the car up until I decided to fully take out the ECU and inspect the part of the board that was previously not visible. It is pretty difficult to capture on camera. Yeah, that doesn't look too good.
Computers, I can fix anything. I fix computers for all the YouTubers, streamers. Anybody just, either comes over to me or they come over to somebody else who refers them to me. This, however, I don't like doing soldering. I didn't know I could do a solder this good. Let's give it a try. I mean, I don't know what to expect. So just a quick update. Plug-in fine, but no check engine light still. So I think I'm gonna inspect the board a bit further. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this at 2 AM either. Well, let's give it a try. That was not enough. It's 3 in the morning. Maybe I should get some sleep.
But the issues did not stop there. Together with my buddy who is really good at reading schematics, we accidentally discovered some discrepancy with one of the connectors to the transmission controller, which would indicate a potential fault within the transmission itself. At best it was a loose wire, at worst it was a failed part. Now here's the issue, the only way to find out for sure was...
You have to open up the entire transmission to get to them.
Oh my god.
If it really isn't the wiring, you might be cooked.
Okay, so we just discovered that we need to tear the entire transmission apart, which is awesome.
In order for me to disassemble the transmission, I have to fully drain it first. American cars typically use imperial sizes. Europe, on the other hand, uses metric. This French transmission that was only meant to be used in French cars sold in Europe not only uses both metric and imperial, but also a completely made-up standard.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this thing, it's not even centered.
After draining all the fluid, it was finally time to drop the pan. And that's when I realized how bad the situation really is.
You gotta see this. The white stuff that you see in the red, it's basically the mesh part of the filter that is disintegrated itself.
It's molten.
These magnets, by the way, they are not secured at all. You can move them around.
How much metal is there on the metal?
Oh, quite a lot. Like something disintegrated. Yeah, these magnets, I can just remove them.
They just straight up tossed magnets in this thing. Transmissions typically have like magnets positions where you like secure them. These ones, they just toss the magnets. It's like, yeah, let's just let them collect it.
Yeah, that's what's in the manual as well. It's talking about just putting the magnets in there and just letting them sit there.
The manual says to just toss the magnets in there and let them sit in there. Now with the bottom part of the transmission removed, I could finally check out the faulty solenoids in question. And they're just straight up like this. They're just like sticking out.
Yep.
Like they're not even fully sealed. It will disintegrate itself over time.
Yeah, and that's probably what happened.
This is mental. Reposition the other camera. If I got $1 for each time my camera mount has broken while filming this video, I would have $2 by now. The YUGO curse continues. I'm not even kidding. My tripod stuff just disintegrated itself. Everything that touches this car actually falls apart. I'm not even kidding. I didn't even do anything. I just lifted my tripod. It's new too. Like, I'm not a superstitious person, but this thing is cursed. Okay, so I can't even really use the tripod anymore. Okay, I'm gonna try to reposition it kind of like this, I guess. For reference, this is what normal transmission solenoids typically look like. Note how they have a plug. The transmission solenoids found in this particular transmission have their wires soldered in, so you can't even troubleshoot them individually and you have to pull the whole assembly out in order to replace them. Whoever designed this is like generally evil. Like, I'm not kidding, this is generally evil. It's hard to describe how awful this design actually is. Even with the pick, it's like difficult. I'm probably gonna get into more detail in the Patreon exclusive video, but for now, I'll just show you a photograph of the person who designed this thing. Oh my god, I got it. Look at this.
Ew, that's horrible. Only meant to be put in and never taken out again.
Generally, that's what it feels like.
This is actually evil. There's like actually no reason to do this. Made to never be replaced.
Transmission solenoids basically control the flow of the fluid. If any of them go bad, transmission may still work, but it will not shift properly, and eventually may lead to failure of other parts.
Now you can find out if it's the cable or if it's the solenoids. Pray to God it's the cable.
Please excuse the camera angle, I had no other options as I had a birthday party in about 30 minutes from the moment it was filmed, but try to guess if it was a faulty wire or a faulty solenoid just based off our reaction.
Oh my lord.
These solenoids have not been manufactured in 3 decades, and the last one with matching part number was sold in Japan 5 years ago, and beyond that there's not much known about them. The only realistic option is to purchase the only transmission left in the entire country that doesn't even have any photos attached, and hope that the awfully designed solenoids are in a working condition. I reached out to the seller, but my messages were left unanswered, so even with Patreon support this would be way too risky. Speaking of risky, I was notified that the ECU that were accidentally found in Europe might have gotten lost in transit after my friend sent it my way. Luckily, around the same time, completely unused ECU with a matching part number popped up at a reputable YUGO parts store, and together with fast shipping, it came down to about $800. It was a lot of money, but I had no choice, as the more I worked on this car, the more it felt like we needed new ECU. So there it is, completely unused ECU in a box that specifically says YUGO. Yeah, it's honestly crazy to even hold this thing in my hands. This box is probably older than me. Somehow, it came with a dent. Maybe they were pre-dented from the factory. Note for future self, today might be the final day, or at least the big day to get the car running. I guess we'll find out. These guys need to go in the bracket and inside these things. You see how little room there is? Oh my god, that was really close. And there's a high compression spring. Relatively high compression at least. Why did they have to design it this way? They just didn't care about the consumers. It took about half an hour to put the solenoids back in, and another half an hour to put the rest of the transmission together, the bottom part of which is very poorly designed. Instead of using normal bolts and washers, the French engineers thought it would be a good idea to use Lego bricks, and due to how old it is, even if you follow the manual and use the correct torque specs, it's just a matter of time until something like this would happen. Oh no! Oh no! This is exactly the stuff I was worried about. Oh no. Ah, Christ. Fortunately, the bolt didn't snap too deep, so it was an easy fix. So the only stuff that is left is to check the grounds, check the power on the harness itself before plugging the ECU, and refill the transmission fluid. First of all, let's try to refill the thing, because if something is catastrophically wrong, it will start leaking immediately. Maybe I should put new transmission fluid. I don't know. Something about this is very sketchy to me. Like, it looks way too bad. I don't think it's like that. It's like it's like burping at me. On this camera, it's gonna be POV,
of me checking the pins. Afterwards, we're gonna try to start the car. This is crazy. It's finally happening, presumably. Hopefully, it will just work. I gotta check some power pins, and even more importantly, I need to check the grounds. Because it's one thing having power, and it's the other thing having power where you're not supposed to have power. Pin 18 is supposed to always output power. 18 to ground, 12 volts. 35 to ground, nothing. Good. So now we turn it on. 18 to ground, 12 volts. 35 to ground, 18 volts. Okay. So now we turn it off. Now we gotta check the resistance. I am so paranoid. Getting resistance. Okay. We disconnect the battery so we don't accidentally fry anything. Plug in this thing. Just reconnected everything and about to check if we're gonna get the check engine light. Negative connected, negative secured. I'm so stressed. Please. Light up. Oh. Okay. Interesting.
So the $800 new ECU made the engine light work again, but not in the way it's supposed to, which was still good progress nonetheless. The rapid flashes and relay clicking made me suspect that the issue was somewhat related to the same problem we were experiencing in the past with our hazards, which previously got resolved on its own. So I spent the next 5 hours trying to identify the cause and did discover that the fuel pump relay that came with the car was faulty, and on top of that, a completely brand new one that I replaced it with was also bad straight out of the factory.
It's still going, it's going for much longer. Okay, so this relay is bad.
The other one's cooked. Okay, that's good to know.
Fixing the relays didn't fix the check engine light, and due to the nature of the problem, I felt that it would be too risky to start the engine until we figure out the cause. And the only way to do it for certain is to open up the $1,000 ECU.
My only concern is that this is the only ECU we have and will probably have for the foreseeable future. And if something goes wrong with this thing, that's it. I don't think there's gonna be a way to come back from this. At least, not anytime soon. I really don't want to open it up. That should create enough room. Oh, that did not create enough room. I just realized, was my pick always this bent? If a YUGO managed to destroy my snap-on pick, that'd be rather very unfortunate. I just don't want to stab my... Exactly as I say that. It should just open up like a tuna can. Look at all of this. They even... the glue paste, they just left it on the capacitors and everything else. They didn't even bother cleaning it up. And this is supposed to be like the most brand new, the most like, the nicest one imaginable. This one even have like residue from the sticker. They didn't even remove that. This is the nicest one left in the entire world, as far as I'm aware. At least for sale. And this is its condition. Did this really cost me $1,000? ECU reconnected. Now comes the scary part. We are going to connect the battery. We're gonna turn the key on just to see if anything is different. And then we'll have to check every pin one by one on that ECU while it's connected, while it's powered. If I accidentally touch 2 pins together, not individually, just 2 pins together, that I'm not supposed to touch together, minus $1,000 and possibly more, because I don't think those ECUs are realistically acquirable at this point. First of all, let's just turn the key and hope nothing bad happens. Oh, whoops. Oh, wait. What? Wait, what? All I did was disconnect and reconnect. Wait, hold on. Wait. But nothing has changed.
I wish I had an explanation for this, but unfortunately I don't. But it's fair to say that whatever happened next is even more confusing.
No, hold on. There's no way.
I didn't do anything special. It just happened the next day, and all I did is reconnect the ECU. And the only reason why I reconnected it was to check the pins.
I'm just repositioning the camera right now because we might actually start the car for the very first time. At least I have this very cautious optimism right now. Synchronize your watches, everybody. Oh, and now it's flashing. What? This doesn't make any sense. This car is a mystery. I don't get it. I generally do not get it.
It doesn't make any sense. What followed this exact moment is perhaps the most exhausting part of this entire project, as I would begin to spend 8 to 10 hours in the garage every single day, tearing the car apart to narrow down the source of all this headache. I've done some sketchy setups in this YUGO and the other YUGO, but this definitely takes the cake. Days quickly turned into weeks as I completely lost track of time. It's 9 p.m. and I've been here since before noon. 1 in the morning, and still haven't figured stuff out. I tried everything, and when I say everything, I mean everything, except one thing, and one thing only. Tried to redo the wires on the original transmission controller unit. According to all the schematics and diagrams that we have, even if the replacement TCU is faulty, it should not cause the issues that we're experiencing. But as I learned with the previous YUGO, things just don't make sense with this car, and this was my last desperate attempt to get the car running. And guess what? This actually somehow worked. I think I fixed it. No way. Those are not very good sounds, but they're different sounds. And that's the sound of an engine starting. So I think we're almost there. I think we're actually almost there. I just posted that, you know, one-of-a-kind transmission controller in. That's like the only thing that really changed. I don't even know what to say. I didn't expect it to just, you know, to happen. I didn't expect to end up being so close to driving this car. This was the moment where I truly knew that I need to fix the fuel system. First, I gotta notify my friends. I gotta get the fuel going, and for that, we're gonna go to our all-reliable bucket. I meant to spill it everywhere, so I'm just so excited now. I couldn't make this look any more sketchy. Actually, no, I could just use my Home Depot bucket, which is like right over here. It works. Just like that, it just works. With the help of external fuel pump, I was able to get the engine to crank better than it used to, but it still wouldn't run on its own. And eventually, I noticed a big problem. Oh, that doesn't look very good. Uh-oh. We have a bit of a problem. That's all fuel. This is not where it's supposed to go. This is typically referred as sweating and tends to happen to old and damaged lines. You can see all the fuel kind of begin to form, especially once I connect this. So there's more fuel going through. Yeah. Fortunately, most of the time, all you need to do is to replace it with a new one, which is exactly what I did. This is supposed to be a flexible hose, by the way. Not very flexible, as you can see. Replacing the line helped with the cranking, but the engine still wouldn't properly start. It was very clear that it was a fuel issue, because adding starter fluid would allow the engine to continue cranking on its own. I began to suspect that some of the fuel injectors might be faulty, especially after some of them began to click the very next day. It really sounds like the injectors. Similar to the check engine light situation, I didn't change anything about the car. In the past, I was able to confirm that 2 out of 4 of them were completely fine, but I couldn't verify the other 2 because they were way too deep. I don't know if it's gonna be visible on the camera, but that yellow plug and the one next to it is what I need to take out somehow. It's not just a regular plug. You also have to, like, you know, press on the clip itself, makes it even trickier. Surprisingly, all 4 injectors turned out to be fine. I even checked the fuel rail itself to make sure that it's not clogged, which it also turned out to be completely fine. But due to the age and condition of the parts, one of the fuel injectors didn't go all the way in when I put it all back together. Even though visually it looked fully seated in, it still created a small fuel leak, which wouldn't be a problem if I didn't accidentally graze the positive terminal of the battery while trying to fix it. Which promptly made us find out that the expired fire extinguisher still works. Oh, fire! Oh boy. That was close. Christ, oh my god, it's actually really bad. It was very unfortunate to have expired fire extinguisher dust cover the entire garage on top of the existing sand, but arguably it was not as bad as me losing my key inside the dashboard. This is completely unscripted. I lost the key. The key is stuck in there, in between this hole and that. So it could not be accessed from there, but I did find some nuts in there, multiple nuts. So I guess that kind of answers the question about what kind of rodent lived in there and chewed all the wires, and I guess it was just squirrel. I'm not even kidding when I say that me losing the key almost made me want to end the episode on this punchline. But then a miracle happened. It started on its own and it's running. That I didn't do anything different this time. It's just running. It's just running, baby. Oh my god. It just decided to work. I didn't do anything different this time. I did absolutely nothing different. So hold on. Accidentally sparking the whole thing and setting it on fire actually made it work. Nothing has changed since, but after that spark, it just somehow fixed everything. I'm just saying. I have to acknowledge this. I got rid of the evil spirit using fire extinguisher. Maybe I completed the ritual by, using flame. Or maybe I short-circuited, or like unshort-circuited something, like basically did like a little, like a bit flip, type of thing. Somewhere.
I wouldn't call it a bit.
Well, it's not a bit flip, but you get the idea. Like, it's something real absurd that it just happened like that. All there is left to drive the car on the regular road is to fix the transmission, and of course find a way to get the fuel in the car while it's moving, as I didn't trust the original fuel tank. There was also a bunch of other stuff, including brakes, but I'll cover that in a different video or on Patreon. Otherwise, this video would be over 2 hours long. So, it's supposed to be mounted to this point, and not this one. But it seems to be pretty stable. And it was achieved using a rubber piece and a lot of E-clips. Let's put it to a test. It just snapped in half. Every single thing that touches this car just snaps in half. I don't know how does this keep happening. It's funny, but also annoying, because now I have to get a new part, and it's probably not gonna be here until a few days from now. With the help of a different prototype linkage, I was able to confirm that the car does not properly go in gear, which is likely caused by the faulty solenoid. I was hoping it would only affect the upshifts, but now it was confirmed that if I want to drive the car, we need to find them one way or another. And after spending literal months trying to find these solenoids and doing so much research around them, I managed to make the crazy discovery yet. Turns out there's one special and iconic American car that also used the same solenoids found in this YUGO, but under completely different part number. It was the DeLorean. To my surprise, there was actually the last set of matching part number solenoids for sale in the United States, sitting completely unsolved for over 30 years until this very moment. It's finally here. Final piece of the puzzle, if you will. It's looking as good as I expected it to look. Oh my god. This is the last one for sale, and the only one listed in the past maybe years even. Yeah, look at the date. I don't know if it's gonna pick up on the camera. This thing is now 35 years old. Let's just hope that it's gonna work. The multimeter readings were on point, which was a huge relief. They just work. Okay. So it would be really unfortunate if I put the whole thing in and this one was also busted. Why did they design this way? Almost there. I was a bit shaky because I was very excited, but despite that, everything went pretty smooth. Okay, and this is why you're wearing... and this is why you should wear eye protection. Because this thing is pretty heavy. Now, in case you're wondering if the new solenoids actually work, indeed they did. So it was time to set up the fuel system, do a couple of small things here and there, and finally take it for a test drive. And no, I did not forget about the most important part. It's been quite some time since I've driven a YUGO. Oh, ooh. So this brake does not work. Huh? This brake does not work. And that brake, I have to push it all the way in. Wait, what?
What's going on?
Wait, no, never mind. Hold on. Oh, it was working. I suppose it's just very questionable at best.
Okay, how do I hold the bucket?
Bring it to the front. It has two individual seat belts instead of one normal seat belt. Do you have a lap one?
Nope.
At all?
No?
I do have ratchet straps. Oh my god, the seat belt is not gonna do anything. It just moves freely.
She's leaking the brown fluid.
Yeah, I know. We better be quick. My wheel, by the way, is upside down right now. I mean, it's kind of ergonomic this way. Oh, this is as fast as it goes. This is max speed.
Get out of here. What's going on?
This is as fast as we can go.
Are you flooring it?
Yeah, I'm flooring it. Oh, it's accelerating, I think. Oh, there we go. I think it upshifted. I'm flooring it.
Oh, we're gonna end.
It's so dramatic now. I'm gonna turn on the hazard so people know. Okay. So people know. Okay. I'm pressing gas pedal. It's not gone. Oh, there we go. Wait, it accelerates faster when I don't press it all the way. Do we have a fire extinguisher? No. Okay, the speedometer doesn't work. So I have to guess the speed. I don't think we're going fast enough to reach 80 speed limit.
Is she slowing down?
Yeah, she is. Well, let me try. Oh, here we go. I just want to point out, the temperature gauge is out of bounds. The meter is like all the way out. Like you cannot even see the arrow anymore.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, but the fan is running. Camera overheated. Oh, it sounds different now. Now we're all. Now it's going way faster. Oh, now the brake pedal kind of works. Well, I guess that works. It's rattling so loud.
Yeah, I don't know what that
is.
is.
Rattling. This is as fast as it goes. Check engine light is on. Okay. In theory, it should be neutral. The engine stalled and would no longer start. And upon opening the hood, we noticed a lot of problems. Oh, that's a lot of new fluid. That's fuel as well, I think. Oh, it's everywhere. Our original plan was to go to DMV, and if it survives, bring it to my tuner friends to find out its horsepower. But the car broke down and my cameras began to overheat, so I had to call the towing company.
Hi, how can I help you?
Hi, yeah, we need a tow.
What's the make and model of the vehicle?
YUGO.
Can I have the make and model? Sorry.
YUGO. YUGO.
Okay.
We were told that the tow truck will be here soon, so we began waiting.
The screech. Just realized we have visors.
You don't. Wait, no!
Dude, I can see behind me now.
Mine doesn't have anything, just like last time. It took us almost an hour of being stuck in the middle of nowhere in a desert heat to find out that the tow truck that was supposed to pick up our YUGO actually managed to break down on the way here. Their truck broke down.
Dude, do you think they called their own vehicles to tow?
It's also just kind of like, you know, getting back to the whole YUGO curse. My 3D printer broke. My phone got this little crack on its screen protector today, on its own. It just did that while it's in my pocket.
Really?
Yeah, and now the truck broke down.
Coincidence?
I think so. Has to be. Should I try to start it up just to see what happens? It just works now.
This is weird. Because earlier it wouldn't want to go up the hill. And if
Earlier it didn't want to go up at all. Let me see if it's gonna start up really well just on the first try. Just out of curiosity.
dude, it was like just not wanting to start earlier.
Nothing is really stopping me to just try to drive it back home.
Are you making a decision?
Making a decision. I'm gonna call him, I'm gonna ask him.
We got a full confirmation that it will take at least half an hour to get a vehicle and then at least another half an hour to get to us.
Yeah, he's trying to get a new truck right now. It might take like about 30 minutes before he can get back to you.
We didn't have any water left, so we took a refund and attempted to drive the car on its own wheels.
Like no issues, bro.
It actually drives fine right now. Well, for how good it can be.
It shifted by itself?
Yeah.
Well,
It's driving better now. Yeah, it's driving fine now.
Third gear? Hello?
No.
Also, that's a yellow light.
By the time we get there, it's gonna be green again.
You're not wrong.
Oh my god, it smells so bad.
Yeah.
I don't think the brake pedal works.
Kinda is.
I just have to press it all the way, like push it all the way. I told you, I told you. We didn't even reach it. Oh my god, it's dying.
No.
Please make it back. Please make it back. Please have enough speed to get it in the garage.
Think it overheated again?
Why did it do it now? Come on, come on, come on. It's not moving. It's not moving.
We both gotta go push.
Nah. Oh,
Are you gonna leave it here?
the brake seized.
Are you gonna try to send it, like get a rolling start?
Yeah. We made it in one piece.
This thing drove out and back in all by itself. Well, it needed an hour to brake, but...
Upon investigating the YUGO closer, I figured out majority of the issues and have placed orders on parts that I need. And as I was editing this video that is composed out of more than 3.5 terabytes of footage, I spotted and figured out even more issues that I will have to address. Due to my chronic condition, my health state keeps fluctuating up and down, but fortunately right now I'm on an upward trend, and I can't wait to show you more extras, deleted scenes and other cool stuff, some of which I'll post here and some of it will be Patreon exclusive, the link to which you can find down below. You can also find a link to a bunch of tools and other stuff that I use, so I hope that will help. I don't want to drag this out, so I'll share some updates and plans in a different video. Thank you so much for your support, and remember, unsafe but fun.